Parents always seem comparatively enormous to their young children, and then someday there's a very good chance the kids will grow to be taller than their parents. In the case of Christiane Ray, it seems almost inevitable. She is the world's smallest mom. Christiane is 2 feet and 9 inches tall, and when she gave birth, her baby was about 14 inches long. That's not far off from being half her size. Half her mom's size on the first day on Earth. This kid might outgrow her mother before she even learns the truth about where her Christmas presents come from. She isn't supposed to outgrow her mother until she learns the truth about where half of her money disappears to. In the meantime, taxes and being able to share outfits with mom is still a few years away. We go from the smallest new mother to the oldest new mother. Daljinder Kaur gave birth to twins, and she was quite a bit older than you might expect a new mother to be. She was inspired because she said her neighbor had a baby at the age of 55. But Daljinder outdid her neighbor by almost 2 decades. She gave birth to the twins at the age of 74. Career day will be interesting for these kids. And what do your parents do?
Mom says she's retired for a long time.
Well, this unusual mom asked to remain anonymous, but her story's out there, and images of her baby are out there too. The unusual detail about this situation is the mother gave birth to the smallest surviving baby ever. The baby is being called Sabi, and she was born only 23 weeks of gestation. The average gestation period is about 40 weeks, 9 months. The period was about half the normal length, and obviously is part of the reason Sabi is so small. Just 8 ounces. That's about the same weight as an apple or half of your average water bottle. Sabi was only half a pound at birth, but she did hit 5 pounds about a month later when she finally went home from the hospital. It's difficult to explore this next story without it being a tad on the gross side. Big old tad on the hilarious side. This woman, months after her wedding, was beginning to experience some pain. As she described, almost like the pain you get on that time of the month, but also like constipation. Then comes the day she thought she just needed to poop and was having difficulties. The constipation pains were coming like every 10 to 15 minutes, which is when you're supposed to call the OBGBM. So she went to go poop and she gave birth to her baby, which is not a euphemism. She just really gave birth to a baby. And that's a story this kid is all right with mom and dad telling as few times as possible. Next, we have the family dubbed UK's shortest family. The parents both have dwarfism. However, they each have a different type of dwarfism. Laura has achondroplasia, and Nathan has pseudo-achondroplasia. She is 4'1" and he is 3'11". And when they had their first kid, he ended up with the extremely rare case where he has both of their conditions. He was dubbed a double dwarf. Doctors didn't believe he would survive more than a few hours, but he proved them wrong. And now the couple has welcomed a second child into the world, also being a dwarf but only having achondroplasia. But after hearing their story, you can see why they're called UK's shortest family. This is a real like mother like daughter type of scenario here. The little bitty baby that is so adorable here is Miliana, and you might notice a really unique feature of hers. She has a big white streak in her hair. Her hair, right in that section, just completely lacks pigment. So the hair is always white. That's rare, huh? How rare, you ask? Well, we only happen to know of 3 other people on the planet who have this. One of them is Miliana's mother, Brianna Worthy, and the other 2 are Miliana's grandmother and Miliana's great-grandmother. Alright, so it's just a family thing. The family tree appears to share some lineage with a family of skunks. Sperm donors are quite common nowadays, and they've helped many people to start families. So, Mandy Garvin getting pregnant from a sperm donor isn't odd, except that the sperm donor was her husband. That sounds odd, but once you hear the story, it makes sense. Sadly, Mandy's husband Josh passed away unexpectedly. Mandy was heartbroken, but she wanted to still have a piece of Josh with her if possible, and the 2 plan to have children someday. So, after asking the doctors at the hospital, Mandy was able to obtain a sperm sample from Josh. and she was eventually able to get pregnant with her husband, even though he had already passed away. The beauty of science. Even though Mandy experienced heartbreak, she was still able to experience a heartwarming ending. This one starts off like a thrilling episode of your favorite medical drama. Quick, get this patient admitted right away. We have a 47-year-old female experiencing extreme abdominal pain. Judy Brown was swept into the hospital, taken under the wing of the doctors.
What is it, Doc? A gallstone? Something worse?
The doctor paused, removed his glasses dramatically, and said, the news is either good or bad, depending on you. You're pregnant. Judy was in shock.
Wow, my God, we have to call…
No. You don't have time to call anyone, Miss Brown, because you're due to give birth in an hour. And this wasn't written by anyone in Hollywood. This really happened. Imagine finding out you're pregnant and then having to give birth an hour later. That's hardly enough time to scan through all the medical dramas to watch. Although I think you'd hardly miss anything nearly as good as what's happening right here. Like and subscribe right now, or you're gonna have bad luck for the next week. Don't risk it, let's start. This next family tree is going to be a little tough to draw out, because this woman, Julie Loving, gave birth to her own granddaughter. Now, before you run away screaming, it isn't as bad as it sounds, nor really as confusing. So Julie's daughter, Brianna Lockwood, learned she was unable to give birth, and she and her husband, Aaron, desperately wanted to have a child. So their decision was to go get a surrogate. And who became their surrogate? That's right, the newly anointed Grandmom. McGrand. I don't know. Hey Julie, what's this kid gonna call you? Forget about that 2009 sci-fi flick with Bruce Willis. This is the real surrogate here. Carol Horlock is a professional surrogate. Her birthing history sounds like a math problem that no one can solve. How can a woman have given birth 12 different times to 15 different children and have only 2 kids? And that's a confusing one. Carol has 2 daughters of her own, but she also acts as a surrogate mother for couples that can't have their own child. And Carol has done this 10 different times, including once giving birth to twins and once giving birth to triplets. She's made a living doing this, helping others in need and, getting some money in the process. It's a weird job, but, does somebody have to do it? The next unusual mom we have for you is the Octomom. No, not the mother of Spider-Man's nemesis, Otto Octavius. No, the Octomom, or Natalie Denise Solman, is a woman who miraculously gave birth to octuplets. Yes, indeed, go into the hospital and come out with 8 more kids than you previously had, all in one visit. I can't even keep track when they sent me home with more than 1 medication. And Octomom already had 6 kids beforehand. So she's maybe more accurately the Fortino mom, but Octomom is catchier, and refers to the fact that she gave birth to 8 kids at once, which is a feat generally reserved for cats and pigs, and maybe octopuses, I don't know. And up next we have Miriam Nabatanzi, who they also call Mama Uganda. Now, Miriam didn't give birth to 8 kids at once, but stifle your yawn for a moment. She has given birth 15 different times. Twins, and triplets, and quadruplets. She has 38 children. Only her youngest child was born alone, without a twin or triplets or anything like it. Wow, I mean, if her goal is to have 38 children, she definitely did it in one of the most efficient ways possible. We're not sure many women watching this would think of all that as being fantastic, but you gotta give her credit. She didn't waste any time at all getting to 38 kids. You've heard it before with the twins. Technically, I'm older. Yeah, but only 5 minutes. Because that's usually the time difference between twins being born. How about these 2 twins being born 3 weeks apart? What? How does that work? Was one twin finishing up a Call of Duty campaign in there? Are they really twins if they're born 3 weeks apart? Well, these weren't twins in that they were conceived together, but while pregnant with one baby, Rebecca Roberts became pregnant with another baby, which apparently can happen. You can get pregnant while pregnant. What is gonna happen when these twins grow up and one of them gets to drive and start drinking, renting cars, and have 3 whole weeks of flaunting it in the other one's face. Ooh, that renting a car one is gonna hurt. Noel and Sue were both adopted as kids. They met each other very early on in life and stayed very close. So close that they married young and had their first kid, young. Noel being 18, Sue being 14, and they went to have a total of 20 kids by their 25th wedding anniversary. We told you, they stayed very close, but that's almost a kid being born every year, and they all have to live in the same house. We told you, they stay very close. This interesting family also owns and runs Ratford's Pie Company, which has so many pie choices for you to choose from, it's more than the number of kids that any family, that most families have. And now, the most unique mother you're likely to hear about. Thomas Trace Beatty was assigned the gender of female at birth, but Beatty came out as a trans man in 1997. Reassignment surgery followed in 2002, and then in 2007, followed pregnancy. Thomas's wife Nancy was infertile, so Thomas chose to get pregnant through artificial insemination. And there you have our first known case of a pregnant man. Like we said, you are not likely to find a more unique mother than that.